Well, hello. The past 24 hours have been really a challenge at my work. We have a website called Unique Products, and we have been on the job pretty much. Well, we've been home for about 4 hours of sleep. They made a big announcement this week, and we just weren't able to handle the traffic that it created on our website. So we've been hard at it trying to troubleshoot what the bottleneck was. And um, we've gone from looking at the content that was new content that we've added to the website to databases to the volume of people coming in, and it's been real challenging. So we think that we got it secured. We actually now have 56 web servers handling the traffic. We used to only have 14, so we're now 4 times that amount. And then hopefully this will solve the traffic problem. But there was such volume, people wanting to get on the website, buying a particular brand new product. It just totally, and we were down for 9 hours total over this 24-hour period, which is really not good. Just really bad. So sorry that I've had to manage that with school here, but hopefully I can get caught up and we can move on. All right. So let's pick up where we left off. All right. So I think I'm sharing the screen, and let's go over the assignment for this week. Actually, let's see, we got to go over the assignment, but I wanted to cover the textbook too. So let's quickly look here at the discussions going fine this week. We've gone over that already. People giving their response about how to be found. Here's the assignment and the different places where we can choose to deliver the online website. So let's focus today on going over the content, and on my next recording, I'll go over this assignment in more detail. Some students have wondered about which one to choose, and my goal is to help you leverage your work from previous classes and incorporate that into the decision that you make. So week 1, planning. Week 2, collecting and preparing. Week 3, here, the production of the database. And in this structure and concept, what we're trying to sort out is really the mechanism by which you're going to design and convey your personal portfolio website. And as you can see, our assignment this week goes into one or more of these different chapters or sub-chapters, sections. Choosing and delivery technology, for example, If you look back at the assignment, you can see here, choose a delivery technology, okay? Choosing a delivery technology. The instant portfolio is those examples that are more towards the upper end here. Whereas when I say upper end, I mean here in these first few areas here, they have portfolio templated websites. Now these were all custom created. Now you can see we're leaving out the ones that are like Beyonce and those others because they are they're not the focus of this course. See that, portfolio helpers. Okay, so this is the technology used in portfolio helpers. Application software, we're going to start getting into this next category down in here. Static page site, you can see here, static page site creator. And you've taken other classes on this one, APP 242 and DES 241. Some of you, if you've taken it from me, you know that I visited that CSS Zen Garden. And in that CSS Zen Garden, you can go to CS. If you didn't take the class from me, this is the website address right here. It's a website that demonstrates one principle, and that is that with the same HTML content, you can create different designs. See these three designs? All because of different CSS or cascading style sheets and different graphics. The combination of those two, which are user interface related. Content pretty much is coming from the server, but as you'll notice, see the CSS Zen Garden, the beauty of CSS design? Do you see how that is different style here? Here too, it's right in there. So each of these designs all are based upon the same HTML content, but they have different CSS and different graphics. That's the purpose of CSS Zen Garden. Purpose is to prove a point, and that is that website design is not so much a function of the HTML content underneath as much as it is the usage of CSS and graphics. That's what they're saying. It's all about graphics and CSS. It's not about the HTML underneath. I don't know. So that's what that website proves. With Adobe Dreamweaver, let's hear it right there. That we go over that class. We didn't get into much advanced rollover drop-down menus and the like, but we were pretty basic in those two classes. Then the other complex movement interaction can actually be done in Adobe Flash. Now, I haven't put Adobe Flash here, not in that category, but I have down here. There it is. You can see it's down here. All right, and then the decision about in your design, whether or not you're designing for desktop or portable, how you can be prepared to do both. Meaning in your design, it can become dynamic, It can be dynamic so that the person who's on your website is going to experience something different. What I want to show you is how we do that at my work. What I want to show you is pretend for a moment that the user comes to our website and they're on a computer, it's a regular size screen. But let's say the size of that screen is not our computer, but it is actually a cell phone. Watch what happens. Let's say that's about a tablet size. See the content, how it dynamically is adjusting? See that? It's dynamically adjusting based upon the size of the quote-unquote screen. I'm using the size of the browser window to emulate as though a person was coming to our site. And there's the smallest. We hit it. So this is a website that dynamically expands based upon the size of the screen. And all that has to be taken into consideration. I'm not asking you to sort that out, but for this particular assignment. But when they ask the question, developing for web or portable, this is pretty much what they're saying. Okay, that's portable device display size. As you can see, it scrolls really well. Content ends up all being there, but you have to scroll through it. See how it all has been adjusted? And let's go with a tablet size. About there. Okay, that would be for a tablet. And you see that it's dynamic, so it's handling anything from there and all the way up to huge. So let's say we were on a big high HD monitor, and this design can handle that. See how it changes? I'm gonna go a little further. See how even the size of the font changing there? Right at that point. It's basically saying at this particular size, then jump to the next font size. That's what it's doing. All that code is built in to the CSS. And then you get out to the large screen and high resolution. Okay? So that's what you can do with just CSS. I'm not asking you to know how to do that because we actually haven't gotten into that in our classes yet, because that's very advanced CSS to do that. So, okay, structure, selecting a metaphor. Here we have choose one of the following metaphors for your portfolio website. And that's what this is about. These are different metaphorical concepts. Now, what this is just one person's classification of the types of portfolios out there, and if they were to be classified, what they would fall in under. So here they all are. So if you want to choose one of these and then put it in right here, see the 6 pages 192 to 197. That's what this is about here. It's good to think about your design, your ideas, and which of these you are in the mode to creating. Standard, the gallery, everybody's familiar with that. Spec sheet brochure. So this is answering the question, how do I want to show up? Generally speaking, I wish I could turn those off. I apologize. I wish I did turn those off. How do you want to show up in your portfolio? Which of these model or metaphors do you want? So you'll probably have a favorite when you study these and go over these different types. And that's what you get to do in this section here. Okay. Now we get into choosing a concept. Now you can see concept is different than metaphor. Metaphor is, in other words, if you were to take your website design and put it in a book form, what kind of book would it be? Would it be a diary? Would it be like a picture book? Would it be an informational brochure? Would it be just et cetera, narrative experience? So that's metaphor. But concept is actually a different thing. It's really what it is about the metaphor that made you choose to do that. And so here you're starting to think about within the metaphor. So it's kind of like a sub-classification underneath here. First choose a metaphor, and then the what kind of thing you're doing, and then how to do it. That's what the concept is. How you go about making it into that metaphor. It needs to be really simple. Keep in mind. So now, in other words, what do you have to do in order to create the experience of that metaphor? If you want examples of this, you can go to that CSS Zen Garden. Of this in play. Now, these are just, all designs are all based upon the same HTML, but as you can look at them, you can consider, they're not portfolios, so they have the same content, but you can consider whether or not they are even showing up as a metaphor, one metaphor over another. If not, then you just jump right to the design concept here. The way you figure this out is you look at a design and you make general observations about the experience that you believe that the person's concept is conveying. And some of the adjectives that you would use may be something like, you might comment about the color that's used, the objects that you see, the formatting of the usage of pictures. And so here they're combining both picture backgrounds and objects in order to create a balance of, in this design, a balance between geometric and balance between that and something that you experience, experiential here. Pictures are always experiential. And then establishing that early on in the design, they then continue with the content and they draw in, as you can see, the geometry used, and they draw that in and they combine the two. Now they get into experiential, so half and half of the design. So that's some way, one way to analyze, meant to go back, that design. So what would you say is the metaphor? Now the metaphors are actually classifications of gallery portfolios. I should say not galleries, but portfolios. So the metaphor is a classification of portfolios, whereas these designs are not representations of portfolios. Therefore, that metaphor is just not fitting to this. The concept definitely is. It definitely is applicable to the analysis of this website. So very simple concept, as you can see, they just have a background graphic that doesn't move. The definitely would be inclined for easily localized, meaning translation, and the usage of these graphics here makes it so that content can be put in a different language and it won't affect the design at all, because we just use, or they're just using icons. So the concept there is just real, very, very simple usage of text with a very traditional style. Here you can definitely describe this concept because it's interactive and very structural. You can see the design here is one of kind of a city feel, architectural feel, mechanical, very interactive, robotic to a certain extent. Look at that, very mechanical. That's amazing, that animation like that. That's being done in CSS. Wow, I'm impressed. Isn't that cool? Yeah, you can spend a lot of time studying. Here's another design, very different than that interactive one. Design of a very humanist approach here, the font that's being used, the colors, so on. So anyways, those are some ways to analyze the usage of a concept in order to create something. Yeah. Here I'm going to say that they are different. The author is differentiating between concept and style. And some of the things I talked about were more on the lines of styling, cascading style sheets, as well as the graphics being used. So read this here. If you find yourself thinking of your interface in terms of using a cool effect, like we just saw, or type treatment you've seen in an annual, you're letting style dictate your concept, not the other way around. So it's kind of like the concept is the dog, the tail is the style. You want them dictated in that order. So just by defining the experience of the individual, you can really put into words, if you were to describe the experience of the person that you want them to have, you would be defining concept. Remember how we said this was the what and this is the how? And then the style is the example of the how. This is very helpful because sometimes designers go off in the wrong direction. They're trying to target a particular company or the type of company. You just want to be careful what you're targeting because it's almost like dating, for lack of a better analogy. And then we go into this highlight of this portfolio. Defining its navigation and architecture. And that would be an interesting question to ask. Here's an example of a portfolio. This is what we're describing about that portfolio, navigation and architecture, and also this one, you'll love this one, by the way. And content. So navigation and architecture, content, and future plans. So navigation, architecture, and content. Where did those fit in the discussion of metaphor, concept, and style? Let me ask that again. Navigation and architecture, where does that navigation, architecture, and content, where does that fall in the discussion of metaphor, concept, and style? What would be your opinion on that? So the metaphor, it's a type of portfolio you're creating. Concept is how you're going to do that. I would say that the navigation and architecture fall right in line with the concept. So again, let me say that again. The navigation and architecture, I think, fall right in line with the concept. And then okay, let me make sure I'm saying that right. Navigation and architecture are falling right in line with the concept. I think we're past metaphor. We're now getting into the concept. And when we sit here and analyze the portfolios that are given, we need to take the ways that we're analyzing these portfolios and map them into what we're doing with the assignment and with the whole book, generally speaking. So let me say that again. One of the things we look at is navigation architecture. When we analyze a portfolio, that, I believe, fits right in line with the concept. We're past the metaphor, right to concept. Then we analyze the content of these sites, and now we're, I believe, getting into the discussion of style. Okay, hopefully that's helpful, because, and then future plans is obviously that's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so now back to the discussion. We're into chapter 10 now. We just reviewed how we went about analyzing. And now we're into design the portfolio interface. So let me ask you the question, are we into the metaphor? Are we past the structure and concept? Now we're into the style? Is that where we're at in this whole process? So before structure and concept is kind of like moving the parts around under the hood, whereas portfolio interface is what appears on the outside. So this is under the hood, architectures, so on, and this is the outside, so the interface, how to interact. Some cautionary points about it's a different medium. The screen is not just a book. It's extremely interactive. So how do you go about what are the steps of designing an interface? Here are the 4 stages of designing your interface. So you can see our assignment really ends right there with that chapter 9. Chapter 10 and 11 are ways to design the portfolio interface, and these are the steps of the process. I would say we are now defining style. This is the way to go about defining the styling you're using in your user interface. Grouping schemes. Look at that breakdown right there. Project, what it hit. This is basically the step-by-step process that somebody would go through in designing another design like this. So let's say you're wanting to create your own CSS Zen Garden design. This is the process that you would go through in coming up with that. See, layout follows content. Layout is examples. This is an example of a layout. That's an example, that's an example, that's an example. All these are examples of layouts. The content is the same. It's all a single HTML file, and all that content is being provided. You might say, well, wait a minute, I see all sorts of different graphics. Isn't that proof? Well, that's just it. The words are coming from the content. The graphics are just coming from image files. So it's the same content. Each of these are using the same HTML file. The only difference is the link to the CSS file that's being used. This is linked to 221 CSS. That's linked to 220, 219, and so on. So layout follows content. This is the HTML here. This is the CSS and graphics. Linking decisions, menu, options, simple concepts about avoiding distractions. This can be done, this design can be done in InDesign, actually. See, they're directing you to the appendix. Appendix A, you'll find resources covering each of the major software methods of producing your portfolio. You come down here, and you'll see a list of, these are the websites they use. Websites and forums. There's game design, professional organizations. I used to be a member of that one. I don't know why they're listing those. They are resources, but it's interesting. They're getting into career sites, specialized resources, software. See that right there? The Zen of CSS. I'm pretty sure that, yeah, he's the creator. There it is right there. The creator of the CSS Zen Garden. Very cool. Index A. And then a portfolio highlight. There's the content. It's funny, they hit content first in this one. Normally it's navigation and architecture first. Seemed, at least that's what I thought. All right, and then the next chapter, portfolio reels. This is kind of off the beaten track of what we are talking about. A reel is a different kind of thing than it's a different metaphor. Definitely not for your normal graphic art type designs. This is not what would be considered a reel. A reel would be mini films. So it's an experience, very interactive, and definitely classified to the area that you're interested in. So an animator versus somebody in 3D modeling and lighting. So these types of occupations are what would necessitate a reel, R-E-E-L. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because not a lot of individuals are prepared to develop a reel in our class. But if you are inclined to be an animator of sorts, then you would be focused on anything moving. Typically, reels have motion. You press play, and it shows you. You see all these. So definitely a different experience than just clicking through and viewing. Also needing a unifying idea, define the structure. And so this is a different type of portfolio. Most of the students in the class are there might be one or two of you that are inclined to create a reel instead of the standard traditional portfolio for a 2D artist. So the reels also involve audio sequencing. So if you're interested in that, then that would be a reel instead of just your standard portfolio. Definitely different reels here. And here's an example of this is really like studios where they develop and have animations on. Okay, well, that gets us at the end of the chapter 11. In my next recording, I'll go over the specifics of the assignment, but I think that this has been helpful to tie together the teaching of the author and this assignment. Okay, very good. Thank you very much for listening. See you soon.